In, on, or at. Oh, what a mess. But don't worry, it doesn't have to be so difficult. So let's have a look at some simple rules on when to use these prepositions in English. Okay, I'm going to make this really clear for you. We're going to divide the lesson into 4 parts. First, we'll look at how to use in, on, and at when we're talking about position, then location, then time, and finally a few other common uses that don't really fit any of those categories. By the end, you will know exactly when to use in, on, and at in all the most common situations. Okay, so let's start with the most common uses of in, on, and at when we're talking about position. Okay, so when something is inside something else with borders, with edges, okay, it's in an enclosed space, we use in. For example, I am sitting in my office. The cat is in the basket. There is some sugar in the jar. My phone is in my bag. Okay, now even text can sometimes feel like it is enclosed. Text in a book, a magazine, a newspaper. Okay, you open the newspaper and inside, in the closed space, are the words. So we can say, I read about it in a magazine. You can see it in the brochure. Now we can also use in when something is surrounded by liquid. For example, do you want milk and sugar in your tea? Okay, because the milk is going to be surrounded by the tea, by the liquid. Okay, probably a better example is this. We went swimming in the lake. Okay, because you are completely surrounded by the liquid. But be careful with water, because in the sea means you are physically inside the water, okay, swimming or diving, but surrounded by the water. But if you say you are on the sea, as we will see later in this lesson, it means you are on the surface, like in a boat or on a ship. Okay, and also you can say you are at sea, in, on, or at. These are all possibilities with sea. If you are at sea, then it means you are away from land. So somewhere out in the ocean, like this ship was at sea for 6 weeks. He spent most of his career at sea. Okay, so in for position means inside something with borders. Now let's have a look at the preposition on when we're talking about position. And we use on when something is on a flat surface. For example, the keys are on the table. Okay, it doesn't have to be a horizontal surface. You could say the books are on the shelf. Look at the cat on the roof. Can I have extra cheese on my burger? Okay, so just think flat surface, we use on. And yes, I know the earth isn't flat, but we live on earth. So when I say flat, you know what I mean. Okay, so that's in and on for position. So what about at for position? Well, we use at for specific points and places. For example, we met at the entrance. The entrance is a specific place or a specific point of that building. So we use at. I'll see you at the cinema. Again, it's a specific place, the cinema. I'll see you at the cinema. She's waiting at the bus stop. Again, specific place, so we use at. Now, we also use at for some set, fixed expressions. For example, at the beginning of the story, at the end of the film. But do be careful with this because it's in the middle. Why? Well, basically because the middle is surrounded by the beginning and the end. And because it's surrounded and enclosed, we use in. Okay, so at the beginning, in the middle, at the end, but we can also say in the end. In the end means finally or eventually. Like I waited an hour and in the end, I called a taxi. Okay, don't worry. These are set expressions at the beginning, in the end. So I'm not going to talk about them too much in this video, but they are a very, very important part of using prepositions correctly. And when we use set expressions like this, you just have to learn them as a chunk, as a group of words. So you learn in the end as one group of words, and preferably you learn it in context. Like, in the end, we got a taxi. Okay, that will help you remember it and help you use it in the correct context. But don't worry, I've made a free PDF for you, so you can actually learn 50 of the most common chunks that use in, on, and at. And in that PDF, I'm also going to give you a full summary of this lesson so you can remember when we use in, on, and at for position, location, time, everything in this video. And there are also some questions just to help make sure that you have completely learnt everything in the lesson. Okay, there's a link up there, there's a link in the description, there's a QR code there, and it's free. And I hope you'll love it. I'm sure you will. Okay, so when do we use in, on, and at when we're talking about location? Well, like I said before, when we're talking about position, we use in when something is enclosed with something with walls or borders, like in my room, in a box, in your house. And if you think about it, cities, countries, all these geographical areas actually have borders, they have edges, even though you can't physically see them. So we use in when you are in that town, area, country, continent. I was born in Yorkshire. Where is Yorkshire? It's in England. I live in Spain. I'm filming this video in my office. My office is in my house. Just be careful because there is a really, really huge mistake that learners often make with countries. This is the mistake, and I've just told you that I live in Spain. Yorkshire is in England. But what about this? I'm going in England. I went in Germany last year. No. With the verb go, we always use to. So I'm going to England. I went to Germany last year. Really common mistake. And just remember, in the past, have you ever been to the US? Not in. Okay, let's have a look at location with on and at, which again are really commonly confused. We use on with streets. For example, I used to live on Thorndon Street. Okay, Thorndon Street, that's the name of the street, so I used to live on Thorndon Street. But do you remember before when I said we use at for specific locations? Like I will meet you at the entrance. I saw you at the cinema. Well, look at this. I used to live at 5 Thorndon Street. So if you're just talking about the name of the street, we use on, but if you're talking about the specific location, like number 5 Thorndon Street, then we use at. I used to live at 5 Thorndon Street. Okay, and that rule just works generally for specific places. Here are some more examples. I am at home now. My kids are at school. I saw you at the wedding. We are eating at the table. Be careful with this one, okay? You sit at the table. It's a specific place where you eat your food, okay? But you put your drink on the table, flat surface. You don't sit on the table. Well, you can if you want, but it's quite rude. Okay, so based on everything that you know so far, what about this woman? Where is she? On the beach? In the beach? Or at the beach? Well, not in, definitely, right? Because she's not surrounded by the beach or the sand. But we can say she's at the beach. At is the general location. So she could be on the sand, she could be in the sea, or she could be in a cafe nearby. And we can also say she's on the beach if she is physically on the sand, sunbathing, building a sandcastle, or whatever she wants to do. Okay, so that's everything you need to know about using in, on, and at for location. Now let's have a look at time. Okay, time. This is the easy one. We use in for months, years, seasons, and parts of the day. Okay, for example, I met my friend Ronnie in 2014. I was born in March. I enjoy relaxing in summer. I go jogging in the morning. I work in the afternoon, and I watch football in the evening. Okay? But just be careful, there's one thing, always an exception, and this is with night, okay? It's in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, but at night. Right, we use on for specific days or dates. I'm not just talking about Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm talking about things like my birthday, Independence Day, Halloween, whatever. So I'll see you on Monday. On Monday, we're having a barbecue on the 10th of June. Specific date, the 10th of June. And I always call her on her birthday. Okay, now compare that to at, because we use at for holiday periods or exact times. So for example, compare this. We visit family at Christmas, but we open presents on Christmas Day. So at Christmas refers to the general holiday period, but on Christmas Day refers to the specific date, the 25th of December. Okay, as I said, we also use it for exact times. For example, I wake up at 6 o'clock. Lunch in England is generally at noon. Noon means 12 o'clock. I go to bed at midnight. Midnight is 12 o'clock at night. Okay, easy. Let's have a look now at how we use prepositions to talk about a few other things. And we're going to start with transport, which can be a little bit tricky. Okay, so let's start with a car. You're in a car. Okay, in, because it's in an enclosed space. That makes sense based on what we talked about earlier. In, you're in a car. But you are on a bike. Again, this makes sense. You are on a flat surface, all right? You're sitting on the seat, on the flat surface, on the bike. But here's where it gets a little bit tricky, because we also say that you are on a bus, a train, a plane, a boat. So basically all public transport or transport that you need a ticket to enter. Okay, the other category I want to talk to you about is the internet. This is really simple, but students make mistakes with it all the time. But it's super simple. It's always on. I saw it on Instagram. I heard it on Spotify. You can find the details of my English courses on my website. And please subscribe to this channel if you have enjoyed this video, so you can learn more from me on YouTube. Okay, if it's a website, if it's a platform, an app, it's always on when we're talking about the internet. Easy. Okay, so the next category really are expressions. And, you know, as I said before, there are thousands of expressions that don't really follow neat and tidy rules. That's why learning English in chunks, in groups of words, is so powerful. And that is also the reason why I made that bonus PDF for you. So you'll find loads of these expressions in that PDF. But a few examples of how we use in, on, and at in expressions are things like this. They arrived on time. Okay, on time, that means punctually. We got there just in time. This means a little bit before the time that it started, okay? With enough time to be punctual. So if the class started at 11 o'clock and you got there at 1 minute to 11, you got there just in time. They're in love. In love. Why do we use in? Who knows? It was love at first sight. The building is on fire. He's in trouble. Okay, he's going to get told off. He's in trouble. I'm in a great mood today. Okay, in a mood. You are in a great mood or in a bad mood. Okay, so if you learn just in time, just in time, just in time, if you learn that as a group of words, you're never going to say just on time or just at time, because you know the expression is just in time. I arrived just in time. Okay, it's a really powerful way of learning prepositions in general. And as I said before, there you have the 50 most common expressions that use in, on, and at, plus a full summary of this lesson with a test. It's all in that free PDF. I think you should watch that video next. A lot of my students mix up 2 and 4, and after you watch that video, you won't make the same mistake. It's really clear. If you found this video useful, click subscribe, thumbs up. There's your free PDF, and I'll see you in that video next. Bye for now.